up on that for sure. I think they pick up on the fact that you're not just you, but anyone that's passionate about something. I think the passion pours through.
Mhm.
So, but well, I want to take a quick moment and introduce you, Angela Becker. Please meet the ecosystem of making cities smaller. You were brought into our world via an introduction from Mike Durkin, and we had the opportunity to see you and interact with you at the Vanderkamp experience we had in September. And the awesome thing about that event that I found through becoming friends with you is the evolution of the event from the evening of excitement and all the activities are happening to the fire after hours to where the group kept getting smaller and smaller to where the next day I was blessed that you spent the night, my wife and I spent the night. We actually had an opportunity to have coffee with you and really learn who you were. And it was in that time that you shared with us this amazing journey you're on. And I wondered if maybe you could bring us into that world of what you're doing and why you're doing it and things of that nature.
Thank you, Peter, for that. Um, it's been a blessing. I have enjoyed all of our connections we made and the people you've introduced me to. I am stepping out of the world of teaching and real estate, and I'm creating a learning toy for preschool children. It's an idea I had in my head for 13 years. I just knew it could work. I knew the technology was there. I didn't know what the technology was at the time, but we look around, we see what's happening and all the advancements. And I was led to Rev Startup Works, and they have a hardware accelerator that I learned about and I got accepted. So I've been working since May. The first 10 weeks was a hands on daily lessons, classroom sessions, work sessions with the team. There were student engineers available. Learned a little bit of CAD design, some programming. I got into the space. I used cardboard initially, and I kind of cut out my pieces and what I wanted it to look like. And um, it was just so much fun, kind of being able to step back out of the world, the busyness of our life. And I was picked up and put into a space that was magical. There was 23 teams. Some I had single people, some had two or three. There was the engineers, there was other staff, and it wasn't a very large space, but it was humming with energy and exciting to go watch what was being printed and look at the electronics being put together. So I have this big idea. There's a lot of reading support tools, from reading assessments, helping adults read, to now to my preschool program. So I have a lot of big ideas in my head. I just didn't know how to get them out. I decided to start with ages 3, 4, and 5 because that's where the beginning foundation is for a lot of reading. And I wanted to do a play structure to be engaging. I wanted to be hands on. I wanted the kids to actually manipulate the letter tiles. And then my biggest idea that I didn't know would happen was I wanted it to talk. I wanted there to be sound. So I was thinking of a little car or a little toy that would go over the letter tiles. If I was making cat, C-A-T, it would say C-A-T, and then it would say cat. Or there's different modes, but I just I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I wanted the kids to get so excited when they heard the word that they made. And then I wanted them to be able to start problem solving and being critical thinkers and make new words and think about all the things they do know, like bat, hat, because they know rhyming. Um, so I've just been immersed in this space to think about, how do you create a structure, a learning platform that can help focus the kids into a certain area, give feedback, which is the audio piece. I also am giving picture clues, like little card prompts to help them guide them at different levels. So level 1 will be very, basic, level 2 and 3. So I'm just accepting that I don't know a lot of things. I've learned to ask questions. I've learned to go on YouTube and watch how to make a certain thing, and I would practice doing the commands. Um, just I learned that I can do a lot more than I thought I could. And I think That's what's kind of really cool, because this toy is all about teaching young children that they can do really cool things with words and they can learn. And so I'm kind of in that same space as an adult.
It's so exciting for me because when I learned about you, you were a commercial real estate agent, right? And that's kind of how I framed you in my brain, is what you did and who you were. So when we had the opportunity to have coffee and all of a sudden you started talking about this prototype, it for me it came out. I was like, where did this come from? So
Mm.
my question is, where did this come from? What was your? Can you talk a little bit about your experience as a teacher and maybe some of the stories that made you think that, because this sounds like an idea that's been brewing in your brain for some time, and it took you some time to realize that this is something you had to do with this. Maybe you could kind of share or shed a little bit of light on that part of the story.
As a reading teacher, I have the pleasure of going and picking up my children and going in different classrooms, and you get to see everything happening. You see the teacher teaching and like at a learning table with some kids, and the other kids are scattered about doing different learning activities. And I saw puzzles, I saw coloring and matching letters to pictures. I saw some things that were really good, but instantly I thought, I can make that better. I can make it individualized. I can make it have a really impactful and be impactful because the kids could hear if they're doing it right. I wanted something without screen time, that as everything was evolving, I kept my daughters off screen time. We did Legos and we built Lincoln Logs and we did a lot of art and played Yahtzee, a lot of card games. And I wanted something that could be interactive for the children and not be extra work for the teacher. The classroom teacher, the amount of planning and, what they're doing is incredible. So I just had a little glimpse of, I could create something that would be individualized. The children will be learning at their own pace, at their own level, and developing. And the teacher
Mm,
can have confidence knowing that while their child is working within my program, they are learning.
right.
And
Wasn't the volume also like? Wasn't one of the toys you saw like the volume was a something that you thought was distracting? Is that fair?
yes, there was a early learning toy for the alphabet, for the sounds and the letter name that I had on my fridge for my my daughter. So I knew this toy really well. Many of the toys for toddlers we like, but we also dislike them because you can hear it too much. So there was an alphabet thing that was like A is for apple, ah. It was just really repetitive, and which is good for toddlers. It is good for young learners as they explore with it, but it doesn't go beyond. It just helps you learn the name of the letter and the sound possibly, but most children aren't learning the sounds. They are able to come into kindergarten knowing some letters and no sounds. So there is something going on with their ability to isolate that sound and replay it for you. And so that was something I've been thinking about. How can I help with that, the learning of the sound? So yeah,
Right.
that was an earlier that toy I had seen earlier, and then over the years, each year I just had this idea and I kept developing it.
Mm. And how long were you a reading teacher for?
I was a classroom teacher for a couple years. I switched to reading in 2006. So, and then I stepped down at 2022. I didn't do
Yeah.
the math.
And how much of what you saw in that role or your various roles in terms of the structure of education, how much of that affected your desire to want to do something differently?
I loved being a reading teacher. I loved this interaction I had with my two, three, four students at a time, and they grew. They learned quite a bit in that year. But each year, I started seeing they were always at that bottom group from kindergarten. In first grade, they were still getting services, still at the bottom group. Within a year or two of that, you see how they view themselves. And that was really hard for me because I never could make it. There was a few students that would really shoot high. Um, but the programming never really got students out of intervention. I was at least not in the buildings I was in. Um, they became they could read, but not at the level of their peers. They were always 1 to 2 years below. So they couldn't read the bigger books. They soon saw themselves as dumb. They would even say that. I can't, um, so I always switched it up. I would do a lot more with the letter tiles. I'd do letter games, phonics. Get my program in the United States, phonics was not pushed really high, really aggressively. It was actually in the back, it like pushed aside until like 2 years ago. Everything's like changes every 15, 20 years anyhow. So there is a big push to get phonics back in the curriculum and move away from kids figuring out a word through context clues. Like I see the blank bus instead of it's a yellow bus, and they see there's
Right.
not enough knowledge for them to know the Y starts with yeah, and I see a yellow, so context clues has its place, but we're mostly using context clues. So phonics, I always felt it was very important, and I always played with and had the kids make words, use word ladders, help them see that how important knowing each group of sounds are. So yeah. So I'm so excited when phonics is coming back, and I instantly thought I need to get to this accelerator. I need to work on my product because it's going to help with the foundation, and it could go into a preschool or kindergarten classroom during playtime. And I have ideas for school age children as well that are coming.
I love the story of someone that's has been a teacher, has worked with kids. I mean, there's so many times that some people are so trained to stay in the box or within the lines that their degree or their plan for their career has chosen. The fact there's people like you that are going about your day to day, seeing an issue, and then going, not only saying, "Wow, that's something that should be fixed," but also saying, "I'm going to do something about that." So, walk us from the idea, the concept, the initiating thought of "I'm going to do something" to where you are today with the product, if you would.
Well, again, I didn't know how I was going to do this. And I went to Ithaca on a real estate outing. I had a colleague that wanted to go to this program. So we drove. It's a little out, about an hour um, northwest from me. So an easy drive. And I love Ithaca. I love going there. Um, We went to this place, you know, second story of a brick building. I didn't know what I was walking into. I go up these stairs, and instantly the energy, the excitement, it was an open workspace. So interesting chairs, interesting groupings. This most beautiful wall of quotes from people and things they're doing, businesses they've helped start. I'll send you a picture of it. It's just inspirational. And
Mhm.
after listening to the pitches and the young adults, all ages were presenting, I just felt like I needed to go there. And then at the end of the evening, I talked to one of the girls that created a learning tool for a learning game. And I said, "How did you put this together?" And she talked about the incubator. And then she goes, "What are you thinking?" She kind of knew I was leading. I go, "Well, I really want to create a reading product. It's hardware, it's electronics. I don't know what really it's going to be because I don't know. I just know what I want it to
Right.
do." She said, "You need to talk to my dad." And so she introduced me to her father, and he said, "This is what the accelerator does. We take an idea on a napkin, or in my case, in my head, and
Mm.
in our summer program, after 10 weeks, you'll have a working prototype." I was
Wow.
like, this is crazy, but I was starting my business. I was really busy. So that first year, applications came and went. The next February, had a habit of reading the business journal online and for Central New York, and I always found it fascinating. So that was my habit every day. And I saw applications were being accepted. So I took the next day off, and because I knew my notes were varied. Some were on paper, some were in a Google Doc. My ideas were all over the place. So I took the day so I can, it was a simple application, but
Right.
I wanted it to be very succinct. I wanted to capture my
Right.
idea. And
Right.
so honestly, I put my I tried and I did not think I was gonna get in. I was very anxious, not anxious. I was like, well, they're gonna have so many other people that have an engineering degree or
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
done something before, and I don't know what I'm doing.
Right. A
You know,
little bit of imposter syndrome seeped into your world.
it did.
Yeah.
But I hit submit, and
Yeah.
a month later, I found out I got in, and it was since then. Before this, I was not much of a crier. The past 6 months, before from getting accepted, the first time one of the engineers said, "Come here, I want you to see this." I mean, the day that it was my birthday, actually. It was my first time I saw it work, and I just cried. You know,
Can you give us a visual of that? So, also, I mean, I know you said you're not a big sketcher, but like when you submitted that, when at the time of when you submitted that application, was there a visual of what it was going to look like, whether it was an animal or whether it was a truck or a car? Did you have that, or just some kind of device?
well, I got to step back because
Okay.
actually, my application was for a K-1 intervention system that is completely different than what I created. I know exactly what the curriculum was going to look like. I knew how I wanted the kids to practice making words. They were going to sit the tiles onto a learning mat, and it would read the
Huh?
tiles somehow magically.
Okay. Right.
But the week before, this is like you can choose to use this or not. I am still, I was baptized a couple years ago. My faith has been growing every year. The week before I went to my program, I kept thinking the word play was just inundating me. And I had a dream about a play and I just said, I don't know anything about I had girls, I had three daughters, I played with children. I don't know how to create something around a toy or a play. My head was just, oh, a very system learning mat, learning tiles, you know. So after a couple days, I mean, the place was busy, everyone was humming, and I just finally found a moment with my assistant director, and I said, I need to talk to you. And she said, what's up? I said, am I allowed to pivot from what I wrote my application on? Because I'm really thinking, and I want to start with 3, 4 year olds. I want to start at the build up at the preschool age and create a toy. And she got all excited because that's her background. And she's a toy. And I
Sure.
I just took a leap and trusted my intuition, and I created a toy.
I love that. And what was the first character or design?
The first one was a fire truck. The young one of them was so excited. He made me a big red fire truck, and in the back were openings, a big slot for the electronics, another spot, and then the speaker was taped on the top. So
Mm.
all the wires were sticking out. I'll send you a picture.
And you said that's one of the student is it it's a student, correct?
Yes, it was one of the students had the idea for a fire truck, and
Is that Cornell?
yes,
How long did he work with you for?
I had the same group of students for 10 weeks, and then I got a new team on the next session, the 4 week session, 4 month session.
Yeah. So walk me through that. I can say this because you're in a similar age group to me. I won't say exactly how old you are, but I know, it's been a few years since you've been in college. How's that feel to be working with younger people with technology, which has literally they've been submerged in technology from the go. What was that? How'd that feel?
It was a little overwhelming because I was the oldest. Besides one of the instructors, I was the oldest person in the room, in the space. And it was really cool because most of them were the age of my two older daughters. So I found it fascinating to kind of have a glimpse of what their life looked like in college or in a different setting that I haven't been able to witness. They were very encouraging. They were excited to hear what I was doing. I was much further behind. A couple of these teams had won pitches, they had funding. One had a patent already, a couple had
Wow.
prototypes already from their program at the university. So everyone was at very different stages of development, and I was cutting out cardboard. So I knew that was the process. I knew I had to give them a visual of what I was thinking. I went to the after 2 weeks though, I was really stumped. Everything I kept thinking about, they were like, "Oh, we can't do that." So one day, because my assistant director said, "Angela, we need more ideas. We need to come up with like 3 or 4 things." And I was doing all the homework they wanted. I was doing all the other things, but I was stuck. So I went to a store and I bought a whole bunch of different things. I spent like $100. And one of the things were these interlocking magnetic clips that you can build cubes, you can build roads and a couple cars. And we were playing with them. There was a couple toy sets that had some interesting, I was just trying to look at what are they expecting? What can a 3-year-old do? So I only grabbed toys that were for a 3-year-old. And some of the card games were really cool, things I hadn't seen because my girls are so much older. And we were looking at all these things, and one of the engineers has said, let's just put the alphabet on these tiles and the kids could make words and a road at the same time and we'll make a car. And I said, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how the car concept came about.
Hmm.
I love that. What was the part that you talked about? You talked about recognizing that the key fob from a hotel, unlocking a door with a fob, was kind of like an aha moment. What was that? Can you explain that to me?
The team, there's mechanical engineers and electrical engineers on the team, and they were brainstorming different ways. And if I kept it very simple, there was another easier way to program all these tiles. But one of the students felt like she's going to end up with a lot of words, or might even get up to 101 toy. I said, we need to use RF technology. And
What is that? Can you explain that
well, it's in your credit.
at a high level?
Um, so there's 2 parts to it. There is the reader, like at a hotel, it's in the doorknob. So when the card hits, that is because the chip is in the card.
Mhm.
In my toy, there's the tiles and the reader is embedded, or not the reader, the stickers. There's just little stickers that you can see. They're really fun, and you can see the wires in there. You put that in the tile, and then the reader is not very big. Um, I don't know. It's very thin. It's probably inch and a half. So that has to be at the bottom of the toy because it only reads it within like 2 inches. It can't be too far. So we had to plan our electronics around it. There's different readers and there's different stickers. The first couple we bought weren't so good. They were not picking up quick enough, the timing. So we had to discover which ones worked better. So that's part of the prototyping. Okay, we bought this set. Now let's go buy a different one and see. And we're on our third one now.
Right. And does RF stand for, like, is it radio frequency? Is that what that is?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think they use that, like, they use it in running. I think they put a little tag on people's shoe so they know when they cross the finish line, if I'm not mistaken. That's where
Yes.
I've heard that before. And I was just making that
Yeah.
correlation for the
When
sake
I
of.
was looking at a patent review, we actually found that patent in the shoes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that
no
was
kidding.
I don't know how it got brought up, but the young man said, this isn't a big risk for us. We're 21, we're 22, we're in school, we're taking our summer off to do this. He's like, you're really taking a risk. You're not at work, you're not with your daughters, you're driving an hour every day to get here. This is really a big thing you're doing. And he was so sincere. He was out from Colorado, so he was taking a risk too. He went,
Right. Right.
and I just feel it was really cool that they ignored, like they were like, like amazed that I was doing something I really was passionate about. There was a
Right.
lady from Arizona in the group that I am from Arizona, so we connected. There's a lady that is a professor that I got to know that came out from out west as well. So there were 3 of us that were a little older.
Right.
Let's see,
Yeah,
what
and
was your?
because you took time off from work, correct?
Yes, I had to be up there full time. I left. And I was not from mid-May through September. I had no income coming in. I was just living
Right.
off my savings.
Right. And we've spent a little bit of time talking about what you did previously, which was teaching education. But then can you just share what it is that you do today and what you were doing when you did take that time off?
Well, I started selling real estate on the weekends and evenings for extra income. I partnered with my business partner, Scott Warren, early on, and we just got along so well. We were very opposites. So we balanced each other. And I, after 9 months, I said, let's go commercial only. Let's stop, let's start our own business. And we did. We planned it and it for a few, like 4 or 5 months. And then June 2023, we did open our office in Johnson City. And now there's a 6 agents with us. So
Wow.
it's been a big, again, that was definitely out of my wheelhouse. I read a lot of books. I went to a training on what does a top producer do? How do they spend their time? How do they get leads? And because initially I was working, like helping Scott build his goals. And I was his, just like an assistant. And then I developed my own business. And I just knew his goals were pretty big. And if he wanted to reach them, he needed to be somewhere that said, we are a commercial, not at a place that does residential as well.
Right. And had he already been doing real estate before you, or did you guys both start around the same time?
No, he had about 5, 6 years already.
Okay. And you were working with him in a different role, just as an assistant, and then learned the business. Is that
Mhm.
fair?
Yeah, I started out
Okay.
assisting and then we I went on listing appointments and we balanced each other so well that we just became a team.
Love that.
Hmm.
Yeah. What I love about your story is, or anyone's story really, is in sharing it with other people, is giving other people who might be in similar places in their life or in their career and giving them hope when you talk about some of the struggles you were having with the education system and some of the things you identified in terms of things you wanted to fix in association with creating this amazing device that you're creating, or when you decided to go from, or having the ability to say, hey, I'm an assistant in a real estate agency, the ambition that you have, the bravery that you seem to have, the entrepreneurial spirit that you seem to have that says, I'm not happy with where I am. I want to do something more. And then using your brain to do the studying and to dig in to understand, and then not being afraid to say, I think we should do this. I want people to be able to hear stories like yours and go, hey, if she can do that, or if he can do that, I can also do that. So I think it's super, super special to see where everybody was along their path when they decide to do these cool things. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. So we had the fire truck, the wires all over hanging outside. So we knew children couldn't use that. That was just tested in the lab. So then we decided to stick with community theme and we made a ambulance, and put eyes on it. It was really cute, but now it's all enclosed. The bottom comes out
Hmm.
and
Right.
we didn't change the electronics yet. We kept it the same size, which their little hands, like his guys, their hands are so tiny because the first two vehicles
Right.
were kind of big. In the 10 weeks, that's what we worked with. So now we have it all inside the ambulance. I have all my letters. With the technology, if you just have the words and a string of letters, it would just never create a word. So we made some spacers. We started thinking about how can we really focus in and help them be successful in the play. So I learned a little bit about designing, setting up some limitations. And by the middle of July, I was able to go into a couple pre-K K classrooms and that were of students. And I was able to sit with them and show them an example of what they can do with it. And they instantly made the most. I have pictures to share with you. I'm, thinking straight paths. They made really fun curves and they did pretty well with making some short 3-letter words. However, they wanted to make things that weren't programmed yet. So I said, well, I'll be the voice. If you make a word and they were a little annoyed. They wanted the vehicle. They loved that it talked. I
Right.
even I said, "What's the best thing?" And they said that she talks. The
Right.
and so
Did the fire truck have a name, or the ambulance rather?
no, they just gave it
No.
a. They called her a she.
Okay.
She talks.
Okay.
I
All
don't know
right.
if it was the sticker eyes. It was kind of
Mm-hmm.
fun.
Yeah.
Um, and one young man made the word ice, and he really wanted it. He goes, "Will you make the word ice in here?" And I said, "I'll add ice." I don't know how he knew ice. And then there was a young man that could not find the letter he needed. He only wanted to make this one word that he needed an F, but somebody else had the F. And he sat there patiently. And I said, "Well, we can make," and I had some picture card. I said, "We can make some other words." He said, "No." So
Mm,
I saw a glimpse of different learners and reminded, okay, I need double letters. I need,
right. Right.
I definitely needed some exploratory, some words like ice in there because there's going to be some learner, some 3, 4 year olds. He was 4.5 that know ice.
Right. And how many different children were interacting with the toy,
I went
roughly?
back twice and I had different groups. I think about 12 got to play and they kept playing. Like we weren't sure how long they would want. So after 10, 11 minutes, we actually stopped them. So that was a good sign. Then there was an issue with one because it's magnetic. He wanted to make a cube and he wanted to roll the cube and hear the letters. And I thought, well, that would be fun. That's another
Right.
idea. But I said, well, we need to. So that helped me transition from the magnetic pieces. And I also knew now I wish I had pivoted from the magnetic road tiles we were using and created a design for the 3D printer sooner. So, but it's okay. That's part of the process of learning what works, what becomes a hiccup. Or, and so by the time I went into the next program, I had already a new plan. We were no longer using those magnetic tiles, and I could constrain it so it becomes a learning path, not a cube or a tower.
Right. And how far along in the process? This was the first stage of the program, still correct?
Yes.
Okay. And how far along? How many weeks in was this,
That was towards
roughly?
the end, the 8th week. We had it ready. So then it was a 10 week program. And so towards the end, I was able to play with students and see, you know, where I would go next. And
And did the Rev people facilitate that, or did you have to reach out to schools and school age children people?
I had to do that. All the customer discovery, all the interviews, and that's something you do on your own.
Okay. Interesting.
So we wrapped up the 10-week program. Every 3 weeks we presented our what we're working on, how it's working now. So it was a success. It did what I wanted it to do. My goal was to have children be able to learn sounds. There was a mode on the ambulance where they could just hear the sounds. So for cat, it just said, "K," and then that gives them time to kind of think, what is that? Then there's a mode with just letter names where it would just say CAT. And then there was a mode where it would just read the word. Um, I did it. So I was beyond happy with where I was.
The kids, were they there in that room with the school age children, or the 3 and 4 year olds?
No, no,
No.
they just saw the times I presented to the group in our play
Okay.
at the table.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just was curious to see what their reaction was. So,
Fortunately, over the years, the prototype program just had its 10th year at Red. So
mm,
they've had 10 amazing summers where they've helped people like myself and teams create their prototype. And they had 4 years, I think, of a manufacturing program. So they knew that people need something in the middle, that they needed time to fix some things they discovered towards the end of at the prototype. So prototyping is a process, and if you might need 5 or 20. You're always kind
right.
of thinking about how it can be better, how it can be smaller. okay, this SD card didn't work so well, so we're going to change out part of the electronics. Mine was pretty simple. Some of the students have really big things they're solving, some problems. So they have some really amazing solutions going on. So I applied to the accelerator. This one is called, they made up a word. It's because it's no longer a prototype, right? So it's like a photo manufactured. So they kind of took two words and put it together. So it's like in the
Right.
middle. It's after prototyping and it's before manufacturing. It's a 4-month program. It's remote, so you don't have to go up anymore. You have classes on Monday, a couple courses on Monday where they're, talking about funding, talking about working with engineers, talking about what's your bill of materials, you need to understand what that looks like so you can cost, figure out your cost. We had people that had funding strategies would speak with us. We had accountants go on to the class and explain how to do the bookkeeping for your startup. So a lot of
Right.
different topics and then we had team meetings every 2 weeks, and I met with a mentor every 2 weeks. So for 4 months, we moved it from the ambulance, and we decided to create two toy structures. I created and one little girl asked for an ice cream truck at that summer
Mm.
program. So I created, the team helped me create an ice cream truck, and I still had my road path. And then we decided to do another pivot, and we created a dinosaur toy. And I had a little girl, 4-year-old, that knew every dinosaur and she could say their names, asked me for a dinosaur. So I said, okay, let's do a dinosaur and let's have him go along his little islands. Or we just created this story, and we decided to have him have a play feature, like I'm hungry, feed me, I'm thirsty. So there's different
Right.
prompts.
Like interactive, right?
Yes. To see,
I love that.
the ice cream truck is eventually going to get a little bit more, like some music and some more lights. But right now, it's very simple. It just says the sounds, letters, and words. Where the dinosaur is kind of cute. Even when he's done playing, he says, I'm tired, and he falls asleep and he snores. So
That's funny.
I absolutely love we call him Dash the Dinosaur.
Whose idea was it for him to do that? Was that you, or was that one of the kids, or?
No, it was one of the designers. She's like,
Yeah.
yeah, she is such a good play design. Like for this age group, we would have our sessions and we would write on the whiteboard. And she's like, what kind of reactions can it have? So there's one island has water. So, or when it says it's thirsty, after it gets a few words, it sounds like it's drinking water. So we
I
just
love
made
it.
a list of different reactions from munching. And then she's like, let's have them fall asleep because we don't want kids to get bored and run from it. We want them to like, oh, it's done. I wanted to play more. And we were thinking
Right.
about um, stopping it so that they want more.
Right. Keep the interest up. Right.
So it's done that. It's been really cool to watch. And we've added lights. So every time he gets a word correctly, the spikes on the back of his body light
Oh
up.
yeah. That's
And
awesome. And does he have a name or no?
Dash,
Dash.
Dash
I
the
love it.
dinosaur.
Yeah. And how did you come up with that name? Just because he's moving, or was it
um,
someone else that helped you?
the team we had 4 different play structures, and all the names had that B, had that letter matching just for fun. And I don't want to change it now. So
Right. I would have loved to. It was so, going, if you go back in time, how cool it would be to have actual like video footage of you interacting, capturing some of the moments of the kids and you, or the students and you, sharing thoughts. And, I just always think of everything as a documentary, and it would definitely be cool to be able to see and hear that, how things just kind of boil to the surface or bubble to the surface in an idea or concepts.
Mhm. I have some pictures, and I tried purposely to keep the children out, but they did I was told they signed releases in the program to be,
Oh, okay.
but I just did,
Okay.
so that was fine. But I do have a release for as I pilot. So Wednesday night is my first pilot with this child, and I'm going to hopefully have a release so I can capture some of that
Okay. This Wednesday coming up. Okay. And where do they come to Rev and they do it there?
No, they're near
No.
my home, so we're going to a public library.
Okay. That's cool. And just you and their parents and them.
Yes.
And how did you find them?
Through church. Asked my pastor to help connect me to families with young children because, like, all my friends have kids in college. I
Yeah, right.
don't know
Right.
many families with young children, and I was having a hard time coming up to people and not
Hmm.
sounding crazy. Like, I didn't
Right.
feel,
Right.
they're taking a nice walk there. I didn't feel comfortable in their space as a fan. So that actually helped me. And then I finally, after I talked to one person, I said, "Can you introduce me to one person?"
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
so that's kind of how, because you need a lot of customer discovery. I talked to 30 families, preschool teachers in the summer program, and 28 families and speech therapists in this 4 weeks. So I'm at almost 60. I need to probably get to
Wow.
100 the next couple weeks. That's my goal, is to, once we get through the holiday season, really amp up and
Mm. Can I
connect.
help you with that?
Yes, you can. I do.
Um, do you think the church is a good way to do that? Does that work well for you?
It did. They were very willing to coordinate because there's a lot of moving parts in everyone's schedule. Luckily, mine
Yeah.
is really flexible, but
Right.
um,
There's a gentleman that was at I don't know if he was at the same event. He was at one of the Vanderkimp events. I don't think he was at both of them, but he's a dear friend of mine, or has become a dear friend of mine, but he's the pastor of a church in Chittenango,
mhm,
which is near Clear Path. And maybe I could plug you in with him to see if he, to say, hey, because I think I see it as you adding value back to his parishioners, potentially, of involvement or engagement with something that can be beneficial for them and their children.
mhm.
If you're up for it, I'll gladly make that introduction and see if we can't get another 50 people on your roster, or
That'd be great. I
go
can
in that
even
direction.
come and be there for a couple, and they can just come by and visit and check it out. And
Yeah, yeah,
I'm looking to see how they hold it. Where do they accidentally turn it on and off? I think because the
right,
last one of the vehicles, they kept changing the mode, so we had to move the mode switch. That kind
right,
of piloting is so important to see, where do they grab it? How do they use it? Can they figure out some of it on their own, or do they need help all the time, like depending on their age?
right, right,
I can't, I have a lot of us, like, being a parent and being a teacher, I came in with a lot of assumptions. And the
right,
director consistently told me, you have to try to prove all your assumptions wrong. And if you can't, then that's great.
yeah.
That was the hardest.
No, what better way than to really put it right in the hands of the same demographic of people that are going to be using
Mhm.
it, and the parents as well.
Yes.
Love that.
So now I have the two structures. I have to figure out, how do I want to present both and let them play with both and see, or I think Dash is just too cool. I don't know what my poor little ice cream truck is just kind of
Mm,
getting overshadowed, but I love it. So I don't know if I should play with. I got to try a couple example processes and
yeah,
see. Um,
yeah.
the family comes.
Do you do you put them both on a table in a room and let the kids enter whatever one they pick up first? I mean, is that some kind of data point that would tell you?
It would be, yeah, like, okay, they like they want us to explore this.
Right,
What are these islands over here? What does this little
right,
dinosaur do? He's pretty cool looking.
right,
Yeah, so I'm going to have a lot of opportunities. So I am going to kind of change it up and just kind of see what feels a little
right.
more now.
Yeah, I bet there's a psychological aspect too that I'm not qualified to call this out, but I just thinking through, like, almost like the setting that they're in, how comfortable they are in the setting, how familiar they are with the setting, who's in the room with them. Right, it might determine who encourages them or says something to get them even thinking what they're supposed to do with it. Right. I mean, imagine there's a whole bunch of different things you got to think through.
Yeah, and fortunately, they've been in libraries at school, programming, so I
Yeah.
think the library is a good space. Some families have invited me into their home. I have them scheduled. and they're, comfortable. But I will never ask a stranger, to let me come to
Sure.
their home. There's so many shared spaces that we could go to now. I'm
Yeah.
also looking to go, there's so many places geared towards young children, like different science museums, hands-on play places. I'm
Yeah.
looking to connect with to see if I can come
Uh,
in and set up.
can I help you again?
Of course.
So there's a company, there's an organization called ICANN in Utica, but they run the Children's Museum. And Steve Bulger is the CEO. He's a dear friend of Making the City Smaller. And I don't know what that would be or not, whether that'd be exciting or a good lead for you, but maybe we can make that connection be a reality too,
Mhm.
if
Excellent.
you're up for it.
Yes, because then I can just, another opportunity, if it's a couple hours, a couple different sessions, come back more than once, would just give me so much good
Yeah.
um, feedback.
Yeah. He'd probably put us in touch with, some type of program director or something of that nature, but I'll start with him because it generally works the best if you can work from the top person down into the organization. There's also someone I was reviewing our previous Think Out Loud sessions, you and I had asked you about Maggie Hartnett, and I think I got to go back through and check to see if I actually connected you with her. And does she works for a company called McClurg, and they're a construction and remodeling company in the Syracuse market. But her role is community engagement, and one of her pieces that she has to do is K through 2, I believe it is, to get out in front of children from K through 2 because they're trying to create advocacy and awareness to the trades for the young generations of people. And I think she might be a good connection for you to plug in on some level
Hmm.
with schools and with, what I mean? I don't know. I don't know what that ultimately means. I just instinctively, my gut says that might be a good connection for you. So I'd like to make that
That would be
connection as
great
well.
because warm connections are so much easier to build upon.
Yeah. Yeah. And one more while we're on it. And I don't know what is there yet. I just know at WCNY in Syracuse, Mike and I are starting a podcast with them in 26. Have you ever been to the WCNY studios in
I have
Syracuse?
not, no.
Okay. So upstairs in one of their spaces they have and I don't want to botch it up by calling it's an interactive program that they've set up. What they've done is they've created like a little mock-up of a community with a bank and a grocery store
Mhm.
and all the things, a library, right? And like kind of where little kids can kind of feel like they have a role as an adult and what adults do. And it's like cute. It's got like storefront. And I think what they do is interactive programs where they can like, for a day, they can kind of like be the store owner or blah, 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 or the library person. I don't even know if that's real. That's just what's in my head. But I do know that that place is there. And as we go, um, maybe there's an opportunity to, connect with someone there to see what makes sense or if you were going to be doing, you know, it's a community space too, where I think you can rent it. So like if you were going to be doing some kind of outreach to show what you were doing to a group of educators, it might be a cool space that you could use to invite them. And maybe we could help you to facilitate like an experience or an event or, where you're
Mhm.
demonstrating. I don't know. That's just where my brain goes in
Okay,
different places.
the space
But
sounds amazing.
yeah, it's a cool space. So, but anyhow, so I'll let you keep going. Sorry.
All right, so I'm in the 4-month program now, and we have a um, new team, 8 in the state of. I'm so thankful. But one of the electrical engineers said, I can make it smaller. She was confident, you know. Um, now, one thing in the 10-week program, I did have a budget I could spend of $2,000. So now I'm in the program where I have to order everything they want. So it was very doable, but sometimes like you just had to kind of pace it. But so we got the electronics smaller.
The budget you were given, that's money that came through the program that you were able to spend, or
Mhm.
you had to spend your own money?
In the 10-week program, that was money I could spend from the program.
And $2,000 was the budget?
Yes.
Okay. It was that difficult?
No, my electronics are not very expensive.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I was a at the end, I ordered just a ton of PLA to have extra colors, and I ordered a whole bunch of Arduino Nanos and different components so I can keep so I can possibly use them and like because
Right.
now I need to make 6 to 8 pilot ready devices. So I can, after I pilot right now, I'm going to make devices where I can send with a family or send with someone to use for
Okay.
weeks.
Yeah.
But I ordered this stuff, but we shifted and we're using different electronics now.
Okay.
So
One thing I didn't ask you that I want to, like, so the original concepts, did you use 3D printing? How were those actually created, the truck and the dinosaur?
mhm, 3D printing.
Okay.
Yep.
And that was done right there at Rev?
Yes.
And had you done 3D printing or seen 3D printing up close before?
No, just a few
Yeah.
videos. I'd never seen
Yeah.
it.
I haven't seen it up close and personal. I'm very intrigued by that.
Yesterday at the mall, they have people selling, for a lot of goods for the holidays. And one gentleman had all these 3D printed dragons and different things. And he
Okay.
was so sweet. He had his 3D printer actually running and on
Mm.
the table, and the kids could watch the little
Well,
I think
yeah.
it's a dinosaur.
What great marketing that is.
Yeah, I know. And he had such beautiful colors, and they make it now where it's not flat. It's shiny.
Right.
It's iridescent. It changes
No
depending
kidding.
how the light hits it.
Yeah.
So
Where are the price points on a 3D printer now? I mean, are they where you can manage that as a normal person, or are they still super expensive?
no, you can get a good one from 3 to 600. I know.
Really?
Yeah, I have a friend that got one for his lab in his classroom, and I think he spent 600. I know the ones in our lab were not. They were much more expensive because the
Sure.
amount of
Right.
time they're always running. If you're
Right.
doing it as a hobbyist, it's really not that bad. And I used a laser cutter that I love called a Glow Forge. And
I've seen those.
yeah,
Yeah, for like you can do like wood burning and all sorts of
mhm,
stuff with them, correct?
yep. And you can cut out. Initially, I cut out letter tiles from it and engraved in so that you can even run your finger through along the S on a piece of wood. Because I was trying to decide if I wanted to
Wow.
use wood or plastic. I'm very
Mm,
fond of wood. Like that's one of my
right.
like wooden toys, but for
Yeah.
now we're using plastic.
Interesting. Yeah, I would just off topic, but similar to, I've thought about getting one of those to create my own marketing, to do,
Mhm.
things to give away with logos on it for the business or appreciation of, a book with maybe like a leather patch that you could do your own designs on and
Yeah.
stuff like that, but,
I took
or wooden
a
little boxes.
I play pool mostly for fun.
Yeah.
I took an all-day clinic a couple weeks ago, and he
I
made
love
this
that.
stick that had the different inches on it and told you,
Mm,
and you'd line it up next to your cue, and depending how
mm,
what you were doing with it, you either came back 1 inch, 3 inch, 6 inch, and it was a really good visual.
right.
So yeah, and he used
Yeah.
his glow forge because I knew exactly. I'm like, you have a glow
Yeah.
forge, don't you?
Ah, you recognize it. What's funny, I think you talked about that the other day when we were at Vanderkamp, the billiards. I think we're going to do another billiards experience this year. We did one for a connection event early on this year. It was like February. We had such a great response because it was just, doing something different. It wasn't golf. It wasn't your traditional things. It got people the ability to connect in a different way. So we might, I want to find some other pool or billiards halls around the region though. Where do you play in Binghamton? Is that where you
I
generally play?
do. I did go to one near the airport in Syracuse. I don't know the name. Is that the one you went
Yeah.
to?
No, but that once one that I used to frequent when I was living in Syracuse. It used to be called, I think it's changed hands now from when I used to go there, but I know right what you're talking
Yeah.
about though.
It's a great setup.
Right.
It's two different areas, so you can maybe rent out the back and be private. I would
Yeah.
do a demonstration on how to kick. I got really good at kicking off on a side rail and hitting your ball in.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had the best teacher. That's one thing I
Right.
never could do. And
Right.
yeah,
Speaking of teachers, so one question I have for you is anything I've ever done in business or generally in life as a whole, I always would try to seek out a mentor so that I could kind of shortcut some of the learning curve. Has there been anyone in a mentor role that you've been able to find or identify in such a unique thing that you're doing?
luckily the program did provide a mentor for each program, but it was through Zoom. You didn't really know them, have any context outside
Right.
of the program. It was
Right.
still very helpful to prepare for our assignments and to clarify what we're working on. I would love to find someone who has gone through the process of creating a startup, whether, and it, I mean, a hardware startup is very different than a software or just a business, right? I still need a business plan and I still need to learn about the financial aspect, but prototyping and having a hardware component is, there's a lot of moving parts that I have to continue
Mm,
to, continue to figure out what to do next. At the same
mm,
time, figure out my funding strategy and my business plan.
right.
So
Right.
I would love to meet someone who either has facilitated it, or even been a mentor for a startup that I could get to know. I'm also open to finding a teammate, a co-founder, someone that has the skills that I don't have. I have the background with the teaching and I have the passion to do whatever it takes to, learn some of the hard things, but there are people out there that have exited several startups or have an engineering degree that they're no longer using. So, um, I
Mm,
think that would be very helpful because the
yeah.
startup world is very unique.
Mm.
And
Do you know Michelle Shatro from NET and Die?
mm,
Have you ever heard her name?
no,
I thought maybe with your interaction with Macne, she was at the Banner Camp event in September.
okay,
Mike and I just went to hang out with her. She's a member of Macne.
hmm,
VIP Structures has done some work at her facility in Fulton, New York. She's the third generation in this business. Then they do all sorts of um, prototyping and CAD, CNC stuff. Again, I don't know all the things I should, but she, as an engineer by trade, she went to Clarkson University. Funny story, she went to Clarkson the same exact year my sister went to Clarkson. Clarkson's not a huge college, so I tried to connect those two on LinkedIn to see if they actually knew each other. But she may not be that person, but she might be a person for you to share space with and share time with. So, as we've talked about, and as you probably can pick up on, our whole premise of this podcast is connecting people and taking the time to hear your story, to share it. But in the process, I've been talking to you for, probably a couple of months now about this project. Sometimes it takes that many interactions with people, right?
hmm,
I think talking out loud, thinking out loud is one of the best, because as you work through the story or you work through the
hmm,
process of sharing something, every time you could do it 4 different times, and each time you do it, something new might pop up because your brain's on a different path than it was the first time. And sometimes
hmm,
the person that's listening isn't always hearing all the things that you're saying, or I might gravitate towards one thing you said, but in this conversation now, as we're hearing your story to share it, I'm thinking differently. I'm kind of like, how do I plug you in with different people? So I'd like to get you connected with Michelle for maybe a cup of coffee. Mike and I just toured their facility. I almost feel like she might be a resource for you on some level for what you're looking for, but I'm not sure. So
okay. So I finished the second program. Now's the third program, manufacturing.
yeah, yeah,
This one is a marathon. It's 52
okay,
weeks. So they do a lot of the programming and coursework January through May. And then the rest of the time, you're kind of on your own working with the manufacturers. So I'm waiting to find out if I get in. I've applied, I've interviewed, and they know my where I'm at, that I'm a little behind the other team. I got my prototypes right before Thanksgiving. So, and the program was done the week after, so there was no time to make a few changes. So now I have these really cool prototypes I'm going to pilot with, but I there's some glitches. So that's okay because it still is doing what I want it to do, and I still can get a lot of information from the children. But I've already started a sheet of items that need to be changed. It's really interesting that when you put in the sound bit, there's some timing code you have to put in too, because sometimes it goes smoothly and then there's a letter that's off. So,
Hmm.
or
So it's syncing.
yeah, and there's one letter that's really louder than the other, so there's a volume piece too. So there's a lot of components. When I get in this program, right away we're going to jump into troubleshoot what we need to fix, and we have to pick one of the two.
Hmm.
So that's why in January I'm pushing to get in front of so many people so I can really confidently say to go the car path or the dinosaur island path.
Yeah.
I have a
I think you
feeling.
should use social media. You ever thought about using social media, like kind of like having people vote or something, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I can definitely do this or that type of thing, but it'll be a very subjective visually, right? But that's okay. You get it, which toy would you buy for your
Right.
child? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that and the kids, it'd be cool if you could. You have to make a decision by when in January?
The end of January, early February, because there's so much. Because then once we pick the piece we're using, then we are already making some electronic changes inside. The battery's chargeable, but right now you have to take it apart to charge it. So we need to decide where a charge
Right.
port should go. Um, just a lot of little things that we'll have, but luckily it's most of
Yeah.
it's software and a few components. The CAD file will change a little bit when we add the switches. Um, so I
It's
think
so crazy for me. Like I think back watching my kids and myself. You buy us a toy in the store or learning
mhm,
something in the store. You just take it for granted. Like that, it just came in this box, and you just think it's some team of scientists or toy. Who knows? Like, where you, like, you don't even think about it. But then now I hear your story, and you're like, I wonder how many stories there are behind the product that Play School has out, or Mattel, or whoever,
yeah,
whoever's out there creating. Like, you wonder what the stories are behind the design. Now that I mean, here's a lady who had no idea of how to do this, no concept of how to make this thing, or just had a vision of what you wanted to see be reality. And now you're like, think about how much smarter you probably are in terms of like knowing, right? I'm just making an assumption, like, things about the inside of a toy that you had no concept of before. Is that fair?
yes. Since I started,
Yeah.
I've taken toys apart. I've broken
Yeah,
things
just
on
to see.
purpose. Yeah, it just has opened a complete different world to me. And I enjoy it. I enjoy the
Yeah.
creative space. I enjoy learning. I always have. I purposely put myself. I heard a book once say, "Put yourself in a room where everyone's smarter than you."
Yeah.
And I have done that on numerous occasions the past 3 years, and it is the hardest thing to do, but it's the most fulfilling. You
Yeah.
realize you still have a lot in common with with different people. You make connections. You get inspired by what they're doing if you're in a good space where they're being authentic and telling you that
Yeah.
a mix of failures and successes, and I had that.
Right.
So,
I love that. Yeah. I think that's a big mistake that people make, is being afraid to be that person in that room, as opposed to everyone wants to be the smartest person. Quickly in life, realize that it's going to be rare that I'm the smartest person in the room, and I actually embrace the learning experience that comes from that. It's where I think mentors and people who've already done all that work are, as your we had a guy that came on to tell his story. His name is Matt Reed, and he left us with this little sentence of wisdom, or phrase, and it was called, his philosophy was the law of advanced return, where if you spend time and share time with other people who've already been where you haven't, your ability to get to your return is multiplied because, right, you're able to get there faster. So I think there's definitely something behind that for sure.
I'm already thinking I can't wait till I can mentor somebody or I can help
Yeah.
some youth
Yeah.
learn about the electronics and use. There's some really cool beginner programs where you can take the pieces I have, the Arduino boards, and you can make a soap dispenser be
Mm.
automatic. Like there's a few
Oh,
things
really?
you can take common things around your house and you can kind of change them a little.
Right.
And I definitely would like to inspire some youth to realize that they are smart. They can do smart things if they
Mm.
just get the exposure.
Right.
Um,
Well, you telling your story is, I mean, in itself is a lesson, just like I mentioned earlier, just showing what's possible for somebody who sees something, wants to change something, and then I think wherever you focus your energy, especially if it's the derivative of your passion, right? If your passion is driving you and you focus your energy and your talents, your treasures, whatever things you want to say, it's amazing what humans can do when that formula aligns for sure.
yeah. Right now I'm in between programs.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you're waiting to hear about the 52 week.
Yep.
I know you're going to get it. I have faith.
I hope, I'm more confident this time because they've seen, how far it's come. Give you no like good or bad feedback. They're like, okay, you can do this. There's no like, wow, you got something. Nothing.
Right.
There is no.
Right.
And so that part is hard because it's
Yeah.
just you and your faith in what you're doing.
Right.
And
Right.
they're like, yep, that'll work. Or they'll tell you, no, something won't work because it physically can't. Like I wanted to do a water product where kids can play with water.
Mm,
And they're like,
yeah.
no, we're not doing that in this time. But it will
Right.
come out.
Well, the electronics and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's too
Yeah.
expensive, but I will do that in the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah.
And but yeah, there's just no feedback if you're on the right path.
Right.
That part is humbling, takes kind of you have to sit with that and you have to just kind of look at the big picture, see what is happening through your customer discovery, through my pilots, of everything. All the feedback I'm getting so far is really great. People are saying, I want one. I would buy this. But I have to prove my assumptions wrong. Or not, but I need to really get into a lot more homes or a lot more in front of a lot more children and figure out the path. Because even if I don't get in, I know what the curriculum is. I know what I need to do. There's so many places where you can contract with engineers now. So if I need to change right now, there's only 26 words, for example, in the program. I want it to get to 100 before I pilot again. I can hire a contractor to do that for me. So I do
Mm,
know where to go now. And I know the steps. I'm doing my social media branding for the next 3 to 4 months to really get the traction from my Kickstarter. And I've learned
right.
I'm working with an advisor out of the CBDC program. That's under SBA.
Mm,
And there's a really cool site on how to be successful in a crowdfunding. And it's really everything you do beforehand with your social media, which is why I'm here with you.
sure. Right.
And I've identified like a branding path for me as a founder, and then a path for the toy itself, like how it came about and how it's changed. And then I'm going to really get myself back in that space where I was at Vanderbilt this weekend, last week. I was helping a couple with a 4-year-old child understand what they could do next to help them where they are. And that's
Mm,
what I like to do. I love teaching. I love identifying and troubleshooting, like, okay, this is what they're doing. So there's baby steps, right? Or there's a few small things that have to happen before they can really
right.
they're I don't want to really speak to that, but it was
And you said Vanderbilt, that's the library. Is that where you were?
not sorry, Vanderkamp.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Vanderkamp. I was
When you were talking to Jamie and his
yeah, I
wife.
was talking about a
Right.
next step, and they are excited that they said I can come and bring Dash and the ice cream truck, and they would love to pilot it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just
Love that.
reminded me that part of my story is also helping families. So
Right.
the third part of my social media push is to come back into that realm of, okay, give tips. What do you how do you play with words and rhymes for with a 3-year-old? How can you
Right.
start to advance it for a 4 or 5-year-old? And just give little bits of teaching lessons, some gameplay ideas,
Right.
because
Right.
parents are tired when they get home. You know, they are doing such an amazing job running their house and their families, and they might not know, like,
Mm.
okay, my child's 4. I don't know
Yeah.
what I should be teaching or what games I could play, word plays, So I
Yeah.
just want to start getting back into that realm and doing some little fun clips.
I thought of like, well, you know how John did the Charlie Brown experience there? What if we did an experience for, if you could find, 4 sets of parents and did like a little a mini experience for them where they're brought together. They can not only have the kids be playing with your little toys and devices, but also gives them an opportunity to talk to other parents and connect, right? And you're kind of like the vehicle for them to come together and learn. Maybe that's a horrible idea, but maybe it's something that would be a way to create opportunity for you as well.
I do think parents could be a great resource to me. They know what they want and they know what they want for their children. And identifying ways to help them meet that need would be good for me to learn more about
Mm.
what they need and what they'd like to have their children experience.
Yeah. I think there's something here that we've kind of figured out, or it's figured out for us, is like, if you create the platform for an experience to take place where you add value to others' lives, it isn't always immediately a direct line to how they're going to buy something from you or do
Yeah.
something with you, but you just create the space where they can have value or find purpose for their life. Sometimes that affiliation of you being just the catalyst to that something creates blessings that you never could have conceived. Like, right? I mean, you and I doing business together is a perfect example. Like us having that thing at Vanderkamp. We don't set out because we think everyone's going to be our client. We set out to do something that's going to have an experience where it charges people's hearts and their energy. And I think there's something there for sure. So maybe we can look at helping you to create spaces like that in the future for I think what you're doing is amazing. Like it's not just about Dash to me. I think there's something about showing people what's possible when you dream of something and then your heart lets you chase it down and figure out how to do it. It's applicable to lots of different things in people's lives, Angela. I don't know if you realize how powerful that is.
And y- the important thing to know is that you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to leave your house. You have to go sign
Yeah.
up for places. You really need to,
Put yourself in play.
yeah, because the
Yeah.
connections I made in the past 3 years from going to that rev on a real estate meeting to hear, he wanted to
Yeah.
hear someone's pitch. You never know who you're going to meet and what you're going to be
Right.
exposed to.
Mm.
So, the space I'm in right now is a really cool space in Binghamton. I came here. They have a program called Breaking Down the Silos, and you get to meet community people. A friend I have that does networking groups across the southern tier. We came
Mm.
here and we got a
Hmm.
tour. This place is amazing, from the offices, the co-working space, the meeting rooms, and the lab spaces. There is some really intense science going on in this building.
Yeah.
And I
I
like
love
to
that.
come here because it's creative.
Yeah.
There's
You feel like you're in a charged up energy
Mhm.
space, right?
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. What else about the project itself? Anything else that we've missed to talk about that you feel is critical for your audience to know?
I had some exciting news this week. I don't even
Mm.
know. I don't know. The
Hmm.
biggest fear is you're going to do all this and you're not going to be able to patent it. But I am going to be able to patent this. that was the scariest hour of my life. They do it live. You look at all the patents and you do a lot of
Mm,
different keyword searches. The same 6 patents kept going off. And the interesting thing is what I wanted to do, my simple mat, and you put the letters down, is patented
mm.
already in a few different
No kidding.
locations. Yeah. So I would
Okay.
have been heartbroken had I done all that work. And
Well,
we
yeah.
kept digging in and we kept changing it. And there's nothing with the I'm using.
So if we're going back to that spiritual moment of kind of hearing the word play,
Hmm.
right? And you believe in divine providence, like that, to me, that says that you were hearing that for a reason, that something bigger than us
Yeah. Well,
already knew.
I was sent to Rev for a bigger purpose. I've always
Yeah.
wanted a bigger purpose in my life. I've thought it might be missionary work. I did, I've been putting myself out in different environments. I loved being a teacher, but I wanted to do more than impact. I would have 26 to 30 children on my caseload. And I wanted to do more with my daughter and her disability. I've overcome so much and learned so much about her and learning that I want to help parents in a way with understanding the process and having hope. There's just so much I've been asking for. Like, why did I survive my childhood and come out ill for the most part?
Right.
Why was I able to be an effective teacher? Like, what is like the bigger purpose? Because I've always wanted to make a bigger purpose, bigger difference in people's lives.
Yeah.
I help people here and there when I can. I do small things. I want to do big things. I want to give back in bigger ways. I want
Right.
to make a difference in people's lives, whether it's through my toy, whether it's through helping mentor, or through my social media, helping parents just relax and know that they're on the right path. They know what to do now.
Right.
I don't
Right.
know. I feel like making this is not only a gift for my family, it's a legacy, but I have so many big things I want to do for even adult non readers. I just want to keep going and I want to make change because reading is freedom. I'm going to just, all the quotes you see, reading is equity. The difference in a child or a young adult's life when they can read, it levels the playing field for them in a way that if they never learn, it, they can't fill out those forms. They can't get loans.
Yeah.
There's so
Sure.
much they can't do.
Get
Um,
directions, all sorts of stuff.
I've worked with adults that can't read. I know it's it's hard anyhow in life, right? There's a lot of things we have to overcome, but if you really think about how you've advanced as a reader and what obstacles you've overcome and then really understand what a person's going through and thinking about the students, they misbehave more during reading time than any time of the day. They don't want to do it. They can't do it and it's hard. And right before Thursday, Friday before a break, they don't want to not be at
Right.
school. So they're
Yeah.
getting
Their brains are somewhere else.
they
Yeah.
just don't want to be, you know.
Mm.
So I just want to make a difference in a big way because we have to think outside the box. A piece of paper and a pencil is not going to do it. We need to think outside the box and do a little more. And I'm hoping I can do that with some of the things I'm thinking about.
Love that. So the reason I asked you if there's any more about your product, because there's two things that I think are critical to your story as well, as long as we're, one is your role as a mom, and then the other is your childhood. And I thought maybe you could share a little bit about who you are as a mom and who those awesome human beings are that make you have that title.
You know, you know a lot of things about my past and my childhood. I've been thinking and really trying to think how I want to address it in a way that focuses on resilience and hope and not so much anything negative. But I did have to go through a lot. We moved 2 to 3 times a year. My mom struggled keeping our places. We always had food though. we did have the basic things that I know a lot of people don't have. So I was thinking about what I'm grateful for from my past, and my mom and her strength, despite never having enough. You know, there were times I got back home from school and the car was packed up and I didn't get to say goodbye anything. We can only goodbye to anyone, and we can only take what was in the car. Um, so that's hard. In school, I had a lot of gaps because we moved so much, and I would lose content from one school to the next or state to the next. And I was a very good girl. I listened, I behaved, I pretended a lot. It was just really hard. It was a very lonely experience for me. And I really don't know how I stayed so strong through elementary, middle school, and high school. That's why I think that's my biggest prayer is why did I survive those things? My junior year, I lived on my own. My senior year, I started with my mom, but she left, and she this time she kept the apartment and let me stay there. She got married, and I was alone again. So I was alone most of my life. It felt alone, and then I was alone as a 16-year-old, and I didn't want to get in trouble, so no one knew. I didn't tell anyone at school. I didn't tell friends because I didn't want. I was afraid.
Right. The piece that stuck out for me was your learning to read was delayed from what you shared with me. And then for you to go on to tell me how well you did in school, right? And then what you ended up doing as a teacher, teaching the subject that you were so late to begin, and then to now be coming through to do this thing. Like I've read this thing recently, God puts you through different challenges because they're the things that are going to define you or make you be what other people need you to be. And that experience, sometimes those the curses, and the blessings that come out of them, or the struggles and the strife, are sometimes the ingredients to the thing that is beautiful and amazing that helps other people. So
Mhm.
maybe there's a part of that in your story.
I had a speech teacher and a reading teacher for several years, and back then you were treated, you were made fun of when you left the classroom in the 80s. So it wasn't as, you know, it is now. We try to change that story. So I definitely never felt smart enough. I was really good at memorizing, and I could pretend. I was a straight A student, and I must have learned something. Yes, I have. But it was, I figured it out once. I went to 22 schools, K-12. And
Crazy.
between California, Arizona, Colorado, and Wyoming. So luckily, I've always given myself grace. I'm like, okay, I don't know it, but I never said couldn't. I never heard that phrase, I don't know it yet, because I know that's the big issue now. But I must have felt it like, okay, I'm going to learn it. I took a lot of extra classes in college. I I had a scholarship, so I didn't have to pay. So I always had like 32 credits. I always took extra classes for fun, and I took so many more math classes that I needed just because I memorized it and I never understood the concepts. So that was enjoyable for me as a teacher and being around teachers. I did stay very quiet because like there was that imposter syndrome.
Mm,
Like I lived a very different life than most of my teacher
yeah.
friends.
Right.
And so I never talked about it and I never spoke
Yeah.
up. I just did a really good job connecting with my students. They always felt welcomed in my room. Even the naughtiest boy would be mean or say something, and the next day he knew, like every day was new. You know, I would be told off or something. And, you know,
Right.
they just are going through what they are. And my goal was never to make a student feel like I was made to feel as a young learner. And that definitely was a big push for me. And to try to do, the best I can with, okay, where are they at? I always knew I can't just teach this curriculum. They're in third grade. I have to do this. I think assessment and knowing where they are and then knowing the steps to get them further. For me, I always worked that way.
Right. The story of the teacher that humiliated you, to me, was the one that it made my heart hurt a little bit. But the fact that you were took lessons like that and then poured yourself into being everything but what that person was to you, to me, is remarkable. Because a lot of people don't recover from those type of
Mhm.
those situations. So I give you a lot of credit.
Thank you. And as a
Yeah.
mom, I've always wanted to be a mom. I wanted a family that I didn't have, and that was what I aspired for. I didn't, you
Right.
don't know how to be a parent though. It's hard at first. We did a pretty good job. The girls had exposure to everything. I stayed home for a couple years and I was lucky to be able to do that. Had friend groups. We played a lot of play groups, a lot of building activities, a lot of Lincoln Logs, like I said, just a lot of art. Fortunately, though, when my oldest was 4 and my youngest, right before she was 2, she had a brain injury and she had to relearn everything. She lost talking, walking, eating, moving. She lost it was a non-traumatic brain injury, and we were in the hospital down in Philadelphia for 3 months, and then we were at Seashore House for a month, and right before Christmas, we were home, and then we were gone. Luckily, grandma and aunt were there for my oldest. We were so thankful they were in town and they could be there. They were retired, but it changed everything, and, like, 3 years later, we divorced because I personally just had a deep sadness I couldn't get over. I couldn't I look at pictures now and I cry because I see how beautiful and I see her smile, and I was so sad that she couldn't do what because she was a perfect 18-month-old. Outgoing,
Right.
friendly, could sit there and paint, had attention a huge attention span. She kept up with her 4-year-olds, but I couldn't get past it. I couldn't
Right. Reconcile that.
yeah, it took
Right.
me many years to get past, and it's a guilt I have because I wasn't present, right? I was stuck inside. I was locked inside my mind with the what I lost and how hard it was. The first few years were so hard. The therapist would give me a lot of things to do later in the day, and I would do those, but keeping the house, cooking every day, keeping it clean, just everything when shadowing her because she was a mover. She couldn't settle
Right.
down. So I was
Right.
her shadow as well. It was hard.
Yeah, that's a tough role to do all those things when in a normal circumstance, let alone when there's
Mhm.
a challenging circumstance to
Yeah.
chase after. Just chasing after little people by themselves is difficult. So I
Um,
might
So
give you a lot of credit.
yeah. So unfortunately, that did not work, and I wish it could have been different. I think in the long run it would have been better had we been able to figure it out. But my oldest was always independent, do her own thing, taught herself how to read. She can do full Lego sets all by herself. Never needed help. She did all the Star Wars Lego ships you know, 6, 7, 8. It was amazing what she could do all by herself. She's an engineer now, living in Raleigh.
Right.
She's very successful,
Right.
very good writer. She's a avid reader. She's like the most well-rounded person I know. And, I was looking through pictures recently of all the things she created in the house and all the pictures of us reading books. And, you know, we engaged her in sports. We engaged her in play and reading and everything. So is like a prime example of what you should do. I'd love to, maybe I should do because she's writing a book. She was a top
Really?
athlete. She was one of the top runners in our area, 16th in the Northeast region. She
Wow.
loved to run cross
Mm.
country. She was fast and faster on hills than on flat. I mean, she
Nice.
just was amazing to watch. So,
Mm.
she was just an overachiever in everything she did, and I'm sure what happened to her sister affected and created some of that. It's kind of unspoken about what we went through with Alana. When she was 15, she had a autoimmune encephalitis. So she had encephalitis, which was swelling of the brain, and now she has this autoimmune encephalitis that knocked her down a few years in her cognitive. abilities,
Mm.
tie her shoes again. Poor thing. Every time I had to tie her shoe, I would cry. And she's like, Mom, stop crying. And I'm like, so finally she asked Dad to buy her Velcro. And it's hard to find for 15-year-olds. But
Sure.
I tried so hard, but it was like she had gone so far and then we lost more. She has energy levels that go deplete for days and she doesn't want to get out of bed. So now we have
Okay.
something completely different that we have to deal with. The disability itself was one thing, but now we have
Right.
this next layer. So, but before that, like her teachers taught her how to read before she could talk. She was nonverbal. She had a computer, and at 10, she started talking. And my oldest was playing a video game where you have to read the screen and do different tasks. And Alana started reading it. I'm like,
Okay.
what do you? So we didn't even know that she could read and how well she could read. So it was amazing. And
Right.
this is a core thing for me because Allie taught herself to read and is an avid reader, writer. So we know children can do that. Alana
Mm.
needed a lot of help, a lot of redirection, and she learned to read even though she couldn't talk about it or you couldn't hear that she could read. And then the
Right.
youngest, I was able to, before kindergarten, I asked her, I said, can I teach you to read? And she's like, okay. You know, so I just made books with her and exposed her to
Sure.
everything I did as a reading teacher for her age. And I was excited that I got to actually teach my youngest to read. So I've seen as a
Yeah.
teacher and with my children, their kids come across this in so many different ways. There's not one way to teach them.
No.
They need so
No.
many. You need to be really diagnosing on the spot what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and being flexible.
Mm.
And with 2 to 3 students in a group, I could do that. A classroom teacher can't do that with 26
Right.
and so many levels. It's really tough. So I'm excited that hopefully we can increase the readiness of school with my program because right now, half of all kindergartners coming to school are not ready.
Okay.
By fourth grade, 64% are several grade levels below. They never catch up. So I'm hoping that and it's a huge, it's just not knowing your alphabet. There's so
Yeah.
much that has to happen. So this is just one
Yeah.
small piece of it, but, I hope we start looking at it a little more, um, in a creative way and really start to tackle some of these issues.
Yeah. This thing that you're doing, I feel like it could go in so many different directions. Like the prototype of this device, this toy to help people is obviously the catalyst to you. You keep talking about connecting with other people and then right now you just started spitting out statistics. And it just feels like there's so many different ways this thing with the people that you end up connecting with. Mike and I always joke around about this or talk about this about making the city smart. Like we had no aspirations to start a podcast and the podcast end up being a thing. And then all the people that we meet up with who then become blessings because they introduce us to this next person or this next organization, which leads us to an understanding about something that we had no concept that even existed before. I think people on their purpose, you're on your purpose, you're following this purpose will lead you in things into places like, I mean, advocacy and you creating awareness, like you just saying those things to me. We've heard little dribs and drabs from other friends I have who are teachers and whatnot about like kind of where we're at as a society in the United States with education compared to other countries. There's there's a need for people to know and to understand. And I think if people know and understand maybe what the decline of our education system is creating, and I'm not here to say negative things, but if the statistics are the statistics and 50% of kids coming to kindergarten aren't ready, that's not good. Like that doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, cause I mean, I look further like, okay, then what's our workforce look like in, the next generation of, the next evolution of what we're doing. So I think it's really exciting to me to hear your story, to learn about all the amazing things you're doing, the passion that's attached to it, the fact that you've some of the things you've overcome in your personal life, the fact that you're a mom and how you've seen and learned from your children's experiences. It's super exciting to me for what the potential of what this thing that you're doing is. I'm super grateful for you sharing it with us and letting us help to be a spotlight and a megaphone to getting more people aware of the fact that there's amazing stories like yours and things that can be accomplished because of energy like yours. So we're super grateful for that.
Thank you. I'm excited. It's only,
Yeah.
I'm taking action every day, and that's all I can do.
Yeah.
I have a roadmap, and hopefully, and luckily it's not all
Yeah.
uphill. It's some
Right.
easy,
Right.
but
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for sure. And, like your daughter, right? She runs faster uphill. Sometimes,
she did. That's when
maybe she
she
gets,
got ahead. Other girls could not keep up.
well, maybe she got that from you. Maybe that's the listen. I mean, you're taking on the easy path for you, right? The downhill run for you is commercial real estate, right? You said, not that there's anything wrong with it, but you said, no, I want to do this thing, and you're gonna build it. It's never easy. So I think you respect, the climb. There's a million different analogies, but you're putting in that time and that sweat to go up the hill, and the dividends will be when you get to the other side and you're coming down, So I really appreciate your time, and I want to wish you all the best. I'm excited about keeping on with your story. I think if I was going to ask you to say one last thing, if you're giving guidance to younger women, younger people, younger professionals, what would you say to them?
I think advice I would like to give any person is you are not defined by your situation. You are not defined by where you live, what family you were born into. And even if all that was great, could still be the loneliest, saddest person. So it's not a negative thing that I'm saying. Wherever you are, there's hope to pivot and learn some new things, meet other people, be around people to inspire you, because life can be an adventure if you let it be. It could be fun and exciting. It's hard, but the little rewards along the way just are so fulfilling.
I love it. Well, thank you for spending this time.
Thank you.
I appreciate it very much.